Apple and Google have been rivals for 30 years. They have fought over search deals, app stores, maps, browsers, and billions of dollars in court settlements. They are supposed to be enemies. So why is the new Siri, Apple's most personal feature, secretly running on Google's AI? This week, Apple confirmed it. The completely rebuilt Siri, launching with iOS 26.4, is powered by Google's Gemini model, a model with 1.2 trillion parameters, running quietly in the background every time you talk to your iPhone. I'm AI Wire. Let's break down the deal that nobody saw coming and what it actually means for you. First, why does Siri need saving? If you've used Siri recently, you already know the answer. It's slow. It misunderstands simple requests. It can't hold a conversation. While ChatGPT was writing code and Google Assistant was summarizing entire documents, Siri was still struggling to set timers correctly. Apple fell behind, not slightly behind, years behind. And in the AI era, years behind feels like a different century. The problem was fundamental. Apple built Siri on old architecture that couldn't be easily upgraded. The company that invented the smartphone assistant had become the worst at it, and with Samsung putting Gemini into 800 million devices by the end of 2026, Apple couldn't afford to wait for an internal fix. So they made a call, literally and figuratively. Here's how the new Siri actually works. When you ask a question, your iPhone first checks if it can answer locally, using Apple's own smaller models running directly on the device. This protects your privacy for simple tasks. But for anything complex, summarizing a long email, understanding context across apps, having a real back-and-forth conversation, the request gets routed to Google's Gemini, running on Apple's private cloud compute infrastructure. Apple calls this on-screen awareness. Siri can now see what's on your screen, understand what app you're in, and take action across multiple apps simultaneously. Ask it to find an email, pull a date from it, and add it to your calendar. It just does it. No more bouncing between apps yourself. That capability comes almost entirely from Gemini's reasoning power. The obvious answer is that they had to, but the real answer is more interesting. Apple has always prioritized control. They make their own chips, their own software, their own stores. Outsourcing the brain of Siri to a competitor goes against everything Apple stands for. So why did they do it? Because the alternative was worse. If Apple spent 2 more years building their own large language model from scratch, Siri would still be bad while the entire market moved on. Samsung users would be having full AI conversations. iPhone users would be asking Siri to repeat itself for the 3rd time. For a company built on the idea that their products just work, that's an existential problem. So Apple made a calculated bet. Use Google's model for the hard reasoning tasks, keep all the personal data on device, and buy themselves time to build something better internally. It's the same thing Apple did with Intel chips before they built their own. Use someone else's solution to stay competitive, then replace it when you're ready. The privacy piece matters here. Apple is not sending your conversations directly to Google. The processing happens inside Apple's own cloud infrastructure. Google provides the model weights, essentially the brain, but Apple controls the environment it runs in. Whether you trust that distinction is a personal call. Here's the bottom line. The new Siri is genuinely better. Not incrementally better, completely different. The gap between what Siri could do last year and what it can do now is wider than any previous update in its history. And the reason is Google. That's a sentence nobody expected to write in 2026. If you want to stay ahead of moves like this, the deals, the shifts, the stories that actually shape how technology works, subscribe to AI Wire. We cover the AI news that matters, up to 2 times a week without the hype. I'll see you in the next one.